The following documentary is based on both fact and opinion and is intended for educational and informational purposes only. Some of the images presented have been generated with artificial intelligence. The views expressed do not necessarily reflect those of all parties involved in the production. We encourage viewers to conduct their own research and consult multiple sources.
Did you know that during segregation, African Americans owned car companies, banks, hospitals, universities, insurance companies, and even entire towns? From the ashes of slavery, we built power, real power. But in 1964, with the passing of the Civil Rights Act and the beginning of desegregation, something shifted. After that, much of what we had built began to fade. They told us to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. But unlike so many immigrants who came to this land and received a pair of boots to begin their journey with, we were given nothing. We had to start off barefoot, build our own boots, stitch our own laces, and still we climbed out of the pits. In 1810, the African Insurance Company was established in Philadelphia by Joseph Randolph, William Coleman, and Cyrus Porter. It is widely considered to be the first black-owned insurance company in the United States. In 1868, Meharry Medical College trained black doctors, becoming a beacon of education and healing the black community. In 1888, the Saving Bank of Grand Fountain United Order of True Reformers was founded by Reverend William Washington Brown, becoming the first black-owned and operated bank in the United States. In 1891, Providence Hospital was founded in Chicago as the first black-owned and operated hospital in the country. In 1903, Maggie L. Walker became the first black woman to charter and lead a bank, St. Luke Penny Saving Bank in Richmond, Virginia. In 1915, George Richard Patterson became the first black-owned automobile manufacturer in America. In 1921, the Safe Bus Company in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, became the largest black-owned transportation company in the country. By 1923, towns like Boley, Oklahoma, were thriving as self-sufficient black-owned communities. Across the country, African Americans established and owned over 50 towns, often called all-black towns or freedom towns, where they pooled resources to purchase land and create self-sustaining communities. In 1942, John H. Johnson founded the Johnson Publishing Company, creating Ebony and later Jet magazine, giving a platform for black voices. In 1953, A.G. Gaston opened a black-owned bank in Birmingham, Alabama. In 1959, Berry Gordy founded Motown Records in Detroit, creating a black-owned music empire. But after desegregation, the opportunity that we were given was to spend our black dollars with white businesses. The promise that the grass was greener on the other side turned out to be greener for everyone but black people. As integration opened doors, it also allowed for greater interference and opposition to our self-reliance efforts. We were led to believe that the white man's pie was sweeter, But when it was served to us, we realized it was laced with poison. The urban renewal projects that followed were more like urban removal projects, displacing Black communities and businesses under the guise of progress. Many of our schools, once led by Black principals, staffed by Black teachers, and rooted in our communities, were shut down or absorbed into white institutions. The children were integrated, but the leadership wasn't. Black educators lost their jobs, and with them, we lost our mentors, role models, and a connection to our cultural identity. And studies have shown that Black children perform better academically when taught by Black teachers. We saw the same truth in healthcare. Black people experience better health outcomes and live longer when treated by Black doctors. But as our hospitals and practices were folded into white systems, we lost more than businesses. We lost trust, care, and familiarity. Black businesses that at once thrived with the support of our own communities now face stiff competition from white-owned companies. Integration had made it legal to spend our money with white folks. And our businesses began to collapse, not because they lacked quality or pride, but because the dollars that once circled within our communities were now flowing out. We weren't investing in each other anymore. We were chasing acceptance, not ownership, and in the process, we traded self-sufficiency for access that came with strings and schemes. The pride and power that came from doing for ourselves started to fade. We had mistaken access for ownership. Desegregation may have opened some doors, but it quietly closed many others. Doors that led to self-determination, economic strength, and cultural stability. In this process, we became dependent on a system that never wanted us to thrive. We placed our future in the hands of a parent that wanted to abort us, expecting nurturing from a structure that had long abused us and now trying to erase us. All of this, our banks, our schools, our hospitals, our businesses, our programs, this was the bootstrap. We built it ourselves from nothing. These were the boots, the straps, the laces. We stitched them together with faith, sacrifice, and sweat. And what happened? They were burned down, bought out, shut down, infiltrated, or outright assassinated. From the bombing of Black Wall Street to the FBI's COINTELPRO dismantling the Panthers and other organizations. Our bootstraps weren't just ignored, they were eliminated. Our leaders were discredited, our institutions were infiltrated, and our momentum was assassinated, sometimes literally. This wasn't accidental, it was strategic, because real Black independence has always been treated as a threat, not just to our status quo, but to the entire structure of American power. And yet, in spite of every attack, every betrayal, we still rose from the ashes. Malcolm X warned us not to confuse segregation with separation. He said, segregation is when someone else puts you in a place and keeps you there. Separation is when you put yourself in a place and control it. He wasn't talking about hate, he was talking about power, ownership, self-determination. He asked, why would we integrate into a burning house? because he saw what we was running toward and what we were leaving behind. To Malcolm, freedom wasn't begging for a seat at someone else's table. Freedom was owning the table, setting the menu, and feeding your people with dignity. He believed that whoever educates your children controls your future. So when our black teachers were pushed out and our schools were dissolved, that wasn't just about jobs. It was about legacy. And though they took Malcolm, his vision didn't die. The Black Panther Party picked up where Malcolm left off. Not just with speeches, but with structure. They created over 60 community survival programs rooted in one belief: we take care of us. In 1969, they launched the Free Breakfast for School Children program in Oakland. It grew fast, feeding tens of thousands of children across the country every single day. That pressure forced the government's hand. Without the Panthers, free breakfast in public schools now would not even exist. They also opened the People's Free Medical Centers, clinics offering healthcare, screening, and education in neighborhoods the system had neglected. They didn't ask for care. They delivered it themselves. And through armed patrols, they held police accountable when no one else would. Not for violence, but for protection, for presence, for power. These weren't just resistance efforts. They were blueprints. Living proof that we could educate, heal, feed, and protect ourselves without asking for permission. So here's the question. If we had more when we were separate, could choosing self-reliance again be the way forward? Do we keep trying to squeeze into someone else's house, or do we finally build our own? Because you have to ask yourself, what would our communities look like today if our banks hadn't been shut down, if our schools hadn't been taken over, if the Panthers would have been supported instead of sabotaged? What would the future look like now if all that black brilliance, all that energy, all that ownership had been allowed to grow? The answer isn't just in the past. It's in what we choose to do next. Because no one's coming to save us, but we have already proven we can save ourselves. We can keep waiting on reparations, something this country has shown time after time again it has no real intentions of giving, or we can stop waiting and build our own. Opportunity, unity, vision. Those are our reparations now, and they are ours to claim. If this message spoke to you, please remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next. And as always, this is As Blackwards, and I am your host, T-Can Hustle, signing off.